I was born in Lafayette and raised in Lafayette. My parents were born in Carencro and raised in Carencro. I went to St. Paul School as a child, St. Paul Elementary School, and for 8 years. And after that, I went to Holy Rosary High School here in Lafayette for 2 years. And then after that, I went to Paulboro High School here in Lafayette for my final 2 years of school. After school, I get home and I had to cook for my siblings. And back then, we get to home at I don't know if you familiar with what we call kush kush, but I cook kush kush in the afternoon. So that was almost a routine for us with milk. I didn't know what a lawyer was, quite frankly, in elementary school. I mean, we never had need for a lawyer. My parents never discussed occupation, a lawyer's occupation. And so, but however, they had a friend who, of the family, who was a lawyer, Charles Finley, and whom they came to know. And I talked to him one day. In fact, he came to the school on career day, I think it was, and he talked to us as students. And at that point, I decided, well, maybe I might try law, after graduating, and which is what I did. And so I went to Southern Law School, which is where he went and graduated from. After graduating from college, a business law instructor for almost 2 years. So that was a good start for me because that was steady income. And once that was done, I sought to engage in private practice. What I did was I built an office next to my house. And it was 2-room, a reception in my office and bathroom. It wasn't big at all, wasn't large at all, quite frankly. And in the practice, we did everything. I did everything. I did from bankruptcy to domestic matters to criminal matters, real estate closing. I was lucky enough to have title insurance back then, to where I could do the FHA closing and the small business loan closing, and so we did a bunch of those. My wife is Bernadette Fontenot Rubin. She's from Washington, Louisiana. Bern was an educator. She taught for 20-something years, and after retiring, she went into the daycare business, I think for 17 years, I believe. And we had 3 children, LaShawn, Chanda, and Edward. LaShawn is a teacher. Chanda was a professional tennis player who now does TV commentating for the Tennis Channel. And then, of course, Ed, who was a lawyer, died about 2.5 years ago from an overactive thyroid disease. If it wasn't for affirmative actions, I wouldn't be here. I mean, there was no question I wouldn't be here. Essentially necessitated the participation or inclusion of minority judges, so it was quite impactful. It really was, and because I don't think otherwise, but for that, I would not have been a judge. I decided to run for judge because I was encouraged by judges who were already on the bench here in Lafayette. In fact, I had one judge he said, listen, the last day to qualify, I had not qualified, and 'cause I was ambivalent about it. I didn't know whether or not I really wanted to do this. And this one judge called me and said, you haven't qualified. I'm going to pick you up. I'm going to pay the qualifying fee. And I said, that's not necessary. So anyway, I decided, because he was a friend of mine, I decided to come over and qualify. The legislature created the minority seats in, it must be 1991, I think. Yeah, and that was pursuant to Clark versus Edwards. Janice Clark, who is now a judge in Baton Rouge, sued the state of Louisiana and the governor, and got a favorable ruling. Oh, actually, it was a suit that was settled, creating these seats. I was elected in 1993, and there were 5 opponents that I had in that election, and the geography of the district was from Lafayette to Rayne to Crowley. Okay, I had a lot of people helping me, my family, obviously, and we walked the entire district, and solicited the help from people. There were some who knew of me or knew of my reputation as a lawyer, and so I got a lot of support, and that's what helped me get elected. There was a case where we had the flood insurance. The insurance company was denying flood coverage for water coming up under the house, and we ruled that they were entitled to coverage, and that made worldwide news, quite frankly, and because we got calls from all over the place on that thing. I guess that experience of being on the cover of Playboy magazine, and I had a case where the city of Lafayette was trying to shut down all the strip joints, a strip bar, and so that case ended up before me, and it was a jury trial, and so we had the trial. We had the defendants, the girls who were allegedly in the nude, had a pasty on their breasts, and so we had the trial, and I allowed them to expose us to the jury, but it was done with dignity. Now, of course, you know, the lights were out, and I had them in a corner, and only the jury could see it. Okay, and so and what I did was I announced that I wasn't looking at the evidence, because I'm not the judge of the evidence. The jury is. I went and I looked outside the window, okay, and I announced that, and again, you know, so I made the cover of Playboy. All the talk show hosts from Dallas to New Orleans criticized me. They called me a wuss at the time. I don't know if that's appropriate, but they did. I mean, they were just poking fun. So to make a long story short, it was in the paper the following day, and my wife got up and she was reading the paper in the bed, and so she said, well, why did these girls have to do that? I said, well, you know, the jury looked at the evidence, you know, and then she continued to read, and she noticed that I had not. I indicated that I went look out the window. So she says, "Oh, you didn't look at them?" I said, "No, I did not. I went to look at them." "Oh, okay, all right." Then she was somewhat pleased. I was the first member of Acadiana Legal Services, and then we hired the first director, Joe Oakers, In fact, I got a plaque, I think, a few years ago, thanking me for my services to Acadiana Legal Services. When I first started practicing, one of the first lawyers that I met was a lawyer by the name of Joe Ornabane with the Ornabane Law Firm, and I'm talking about 40-something years ago. A good lawyer, and his advice to me was that whatever you do, make sure you return all of your calls, that you get back with your clients. Always call them back. And that stood with me. And I made sure that every time I got a call from somebody, I called them back. And that was because of that notion, and that helped me in my practice. Then I had another lawyer by the name of Pete Rush, who was a workaholic, and this guy really worked. I mean, you can call him at 9 o'clock at night if you had a problem. He was at his house in his office doing some work, and that helped me with my work ethics, and that's why I got to do the things that I did, and it proved to be the right thing to do. I presided over drug court for a period of 3 years. When I went to drug court, the participants were not organized, and I mean, they had no dress code or anything. I mean, it was in disarray. So what I did was, immediately when I got there, I instituted a dress code. Everybody had to have a suit and tie, and the ladies had to be well dressed. And I made sure they got those because we went to Goodwill and other places to get clothes for them, and along with, they were required to have a stress card that anytime they felt like they were about to fall off the wagon, or if they were feeling stressed, they had a card with their consular number or caseworker number on that card, and they were required to call their caseworker, and they were also mandated to maintain that card at all times. If they were asked for the card and they were without it, they would get sanctioned, and that sanction mean that they could get a 1 or 2 days in jail, and so we instilled some pride in them, and they had lost their acclimation to living clean or living a good, healthy life. We tried to reinstill that in them, and break that cycle of using drugs. And even today, when I go certain places, I run across kids who come to me and say, "Hey, listen, you saved my life," you know. I mean, and or you really, really helped me. And that's a good feeling. That's rewarding. I mean, you know, when you see that. I've given this job every bit of what I had to offer. The best that I had to offer, I've given it. I mean, you know, barring nothing. And so, if I'm lucky enough to retire, I think I'm just going to take it easy, sit back and relax, and just not do much at all. I'd like to be remembered as a judge who gave it his all, who was not afraid to deal with the issues, not afraid to deal with the consequences, and always tried to do what was right.